This is on a website, mobilize.us, NEA. This is for NEA members, okay? This gives them a whole bunch of links and flyers and information about all kinds of far left political activity that they can engage in. The NEA, the National Education Association, is the largest public sector union in America, comprised of teachers, administrators, educators, 3 million. Look at this. Stop ICE, fight ICE now. Meet at the courthouse. We are done with performative demonstrations. Look at this. We can be a powerful presence. Wear black, wear a mask. Don't want them to see who you are, do you? Look at that. All the information right there to sign up to fight ICE. That is for educators. Let's see, candlelight vigils. Oh, a legislative update in Indiana. Wow. Georgia, ICE out in Georgia. You think it's just the blue states? Think again. They are mobilizing far left activists. They are bringing them into your red state. As I am talking to you right now, it's happening. Indivisible, look at that. That was South Carolina. Illinois, North Carolina. Candlelight walk-in visual in my neck of the woods, Wisconsin. Michigan, no ICE, no war. Again, these are all protests. They're political protests with radical activists. Now here's a legislative day that was shown before, Indiana. Days of action, Indiana State Teachers Association, Missouri. More, there, look at, let's mobilize in Missouri, come on. Let's bring all the left-wing activists. Day of action in Missouri. This is a teachers union, a teachers union. When do they ever talk about students and children and raising reading scores and test scores and proficiency rates? When do they ever talk with teachers about what they need in classrooms? I don't think they talk about that very much at all. Look at this, Washington State. Young Worker March on Washington. So this would mean, hey, let's get your students involved, young workers. Wow. NEA makes you wonder why. So it's on an activist website. Here we go, Stand with Minnesota. Minnesota's under occupation. You can see some of the language here. They need your help. And they're going to provide a vetted directory. So let's just keep looking. Help impacted families pay their rent. Donate to the orgs on the front line. Go to a GoFundMe. Who are you going to fund? Oh, you're going to go fund the protesters? Yeah, you're going to help them, get them food, pet and animal support, union member support. Could that be the teachers union? Crowdfunding campaigns. Oh, look, they have a form you can donate. Let's see. Funds for schools and students, fund for communities, funds for employees. Oh, look, all the organizations doing the work on the ground. This is, mind you, this is just one website of many. Legal defense, jail support. So if they're protesting and they get arrested, look at all of these organizations. Keep going. Yep, keep going. Still more. Again, this is just one website of many. all the organizations that are on the ground in Minnesota. This is just a little bit. Here's the legal support. Yeah, so and this is for the protesters. A lot of this is for the protesters. Immigrant Rapid Response Fund. So then they've got.
This isn't politics to us Hispanics. This is our lives. We tend to be afraid to speak our family's language in public, afraid of neighbors, afraid of strangers, afraid that someone's perception, not a crime, not a threat, just bias, because we feel called attention or abuse. Always getting rooms, always lowering our voices, always wondering who might be listening. That fear follows you everywhere you know. It teaches you that safety is conditional, that your humanity is negotiable. So let me ask you plainly, will it take for you to live this fear every day before you feel empathy? Will it take your family being targeted, your language used as the bullseye, your child being taken? And to those who hide behind religion and supporting this, hear me clearly as your sister in Christ. The Bible does not defend cages. It does not excuse rape. It does not bless terror.
ICE is specifically targeting communities in Milwaukee, like the Hmong people, Somalians, and people of Hispanic descent. Not too long ago, they deported my gang, a Hmong American born in Thailand, to Laos, a country that she has never even been to before. This is outright nonsense. ICE has to be stopped before the public executions, racial profiling, and the unwarranted kidnapping of people continues.
And look me in my eyes when I say this. Whoever does not love does not know God, for God is love. You do not get to shut it. Stop the deportation. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Say it once, say it twice. We will not put it up with ICE. People united will never be defeated. The people united
Hi, everyone. This is Unleashed with me, Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And today I'm joined again by friend Ryan Walters. He's a dad of four, first and foremost, CEO of Teacher Freedom Alliance, and the former Oklahoma State Superintendent and Secretary of Education. And I've been looking at your X account. There is so much going on right now. It's kind of hard to know where to start, especially after I've had some conversations with my friends' moms, Erin Lee, who is a huge parental rights activist and activist for children in Colorado, talking to Meg Brock, who grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and now she's in South Carolina, talking to Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty attorneys, just about all the things that are happening. And it's enough to just like, maybe it's nice to have kids home and distracting you for a bit while it's really cold. Although I think many of us are ready for them to go back to school. I don't know about you. How is it in Oklahoma?
Well, it's cold. It's cold. We've done a lot of sledding and snowman building and things like that. But to your point, parents are under attack from every angle. It seems like they just continue to escalate these attacks. You see what's going on in Minnesota. You see what teachers union officials are pushing against the United States government, against President Trump, against ICE, and ultimately it's against parents. It's an attack on you. I know that you are more familiar with that than anybody, but it is really a fight on all fronts. The left doesn't stop. They don't slow down. And even with the victories you've had, Moms for Liberty have had, they just double and triple down, and their tactics continue to get nastier.
Yeah. I mean, what's happening in Minnesota with these protests, anti-ICE protests, but it is affecting families all over the country and schools all over the country, because teachers unions are leading the way in using schools as a way to, I don't know, recruit, because they're the messaging that I'm seeing. I got an account on Blue Sky, and so I'm following a lot of teachers unions, and the stuff that I'm seeing is insane. It's insane what they're doing, the posts that they're just putting right out there. And I know you're talking a lot about it. What are you seeing?
Our teachers, we've got good teachers that are actually about teaching kids, want to work with parents. So they started alerting us early last week saying, you won't believe what the union is pushing on ICE. And so they started sending us the emails, and we go, this is incredible, calling them murderers, calling them terrorists, saying they're out to kill the kids, kill the parents, outrageous stuff. Then it went even further. They began instructing the teachers to walk out, strike on Friday, wear blue, to signal that you are against ICE. You saw videos of teachers in classrooms telling the kids that ICE isn't really police officers. They're not really law enforcement. And, to me, one of the crescendos of this, too, is Tim Walz. I mean, you couldn't have a politician that's more antithetical to parents and kids than Tim Walz. I don't know if you saw his statements over the weekend with everything that's happening in Minnesota. He decides to go as far as injecting Anne Frank and saying that this will be a story that kids will read in the future about these tactics, and comparing President Trump and the United States to Nazi Germany, which I just want to take a minute here. Don't forget that Tim Walz is a public school teacher, teachers union teacher. So, it's just, how many times do you think Tim Walz, at the behest of the union and everybody else, walked into a classroom, just like he did for the entire country, went forward and gave them propaganda like Donald Trump is Hitler, the United States is the equivalent of Nazi Germany, to the kids in his classroom? That happened all the time. But you're seeing it front and center. The most radical governor in the country, teachers union, card carrying, left-wing teaching activist. That's what you see in the classroom from these teachers union types on a daily basis.
Yes. So I just posted yesterday, and I know because you've had this, the Washington State Education Association, Eyes on ICE. They had a Zoom, join NEA members, civil rights, labor, and community members. And this was a training. They were giving training on how to use your position in schools to recruit other educators, how to influence classrooms, how it's really shocking. And this is the largest public sector union in the country with over 3 million members, most of whom are teachers or educators or in that space. And this is what they're doing. They're not focused on reading, writing. They're not focused on raising proficiency scores. They spend all of their time almost exclusively engaging in political, actually radical left political activities.
And we even saw them instructing members of how to prevent ICE agents from doing their jobs. There was a video posted of, again, a student videotaped a teacher instructing the kids on how they were going to do this. And okay, that's a federal crime to impede a federal law enforcement officer doing their jobs. And this is where you see this escalates to this crazy level of what we're seeing in Minnesota. The left, through the teachers union, has stirred this up to such a fever pitch that law enforcement officers are putting their lives on the line on a daily basis, trying to get crime under control, trying to deport criminal, illegal immigrants that cause a danger to society. And let's be frank, they cause a danger to kids, to families, and they're out there trying to do their jobs. And the left is trying to have this country come apart at the seams by pushing this Marxist ideology every step of the way. The comparisons to Nazi Germany are outrageous. The calls for violence on ICE officers is outrageous. But the coordination, I think you do a great job of talking about this. This is not a one-off deal. This is not a, you know what, this one member of the teachers union got really mad today and said something that I think's crazy, but you know what, there's a few crazy oddballs here and there. No. This is a coordinated effort from the top of the teachers union to utilize their membership to further their left-wing agenda, which is to tear the country apart and install a Marxist regime. And so that's where you see they never miss an opportunity to do that. They jump all over anything President Trump is doing. They mobilize, they attack, they coordinate. And again, you're seeing that play out right now in Minnesota.
They never let a crisis go to waste. So NEA there's an app, Mobilize US, mobilize.us. At National Education Association, find an event near you. Local events are a great way for local fellow educators to make their voices heard. And then they have candlelight walks, vigils, trainings, all sorts of activism, walkouts, May Day. And then it says right here, they have organized protests. And they're working with socialist groups, Popular Democracy, Public Citizen 50. They just name all of these different groups for march outs all over the country. Florida, North Dakota, Ohio, Iowa, everywhere, North Carolina. So just took me 20 minutes. And they are heavily promoting this in red states, blue states. You can't think, oh, I'm in Florida, I'm in Iowa, I'm okay. No, they're trying to radicalize everywhere.
And that's a great point. I think folks need to understand that is they want to take red states, and look, I live in a red state. I'm very proud to be from Oklahoma, live in Oklahoma, very proud of the work being done in Texas and Florida, Arkansas, some of these states that are really leading the charge, but they want to take a red state over. They have embedded themselves in every state in the country. They utilize the national apparatus. We saw it here in Oklahoma where millions come in from out of state, from New Jersey, from Michigan, and you start seeing all this money pour into your state to try to take out initiatives that support parents and parents' rights. And I've got an anecdote from just over the weekend. I was talking to a national reporter who said, you're not going to believe the story. We were talking to a local politician up here in the Northeast, and they said the teachers union was going to come, hey, we'll come phone bank for you on the weekends. And he goes, okay, I figure, what do you think? 3 or 4 people show up on a Saturday? Literally had hundreds show up to phone bank. And he was telling this story of just like, oh, isn't this great? And she said, I'm sitting there going, so in a couple of days, they got hundreds of people to come phone bank for a local political race, but it shows you how much they mobilize. Yes. They mobilize across state lines. It is a national machine.
Yep.
That is, I will say this. They are very effective. They have their talking points. They have the lies that they push. They have their membership numbers that are so large. They have hundreds of millions of dollars, and they use them to exert as much damage to the country as possible.
So I mean, I can talk so much about this, the machine. I just sat through what's a group called Red, Wine, and Blue. And I signed up. I think there's something again tonight, and it's actually about mobilizing. And so I learn a lot just by watching, taking notes. And they have, this is going to be about phone banking. So they are training, I think the last time there was 15,000 people on live. Then they direct them over to training. They work with all sorts of progressive groups. They specifically had representatives of teachers unions there encouraging, hey, we've got to be a part of this. And they have apps where when they phone bank, one call goes to 10 people. They're like, we make our numbers seem far bigger than they are. How to upset an algorithm so they like your account, they would target you. Let's go target Ryan Walters. Let's go target a Teacher Freedom Alliance, and let's bombard them. Lots of things that were just blowing my mind that I wouldn't think of, but that's what they do. And they have a lot of paid activists, but a lot of union members. They do so much of this work, and it's just shocking to me. It's really shocking.
Well, I'll give you an example. Here in Oklahoma, we were pushing for parents' rights piece of legislation, and we got the legislature got bombarded with emails, right? So I asked one of the members of leadership. I said, "Listen, you're telling me you're getting all this negative feedback. Like everywhere I go to Walmart, I can go to the local diner. Parents and grandparents are thanking us for pushing this and protecting their rights. How about you go in and see how many of those emails came from out of state?"
Yes.
So they used some technology to do that. Over 90% did. And I went back to my guys, this is absolutely the teachers unions utilizing. And again, they're very good at it, but again, these legislators wake up one morning and go, my goodness, I got 3,000 emails. I'm like, well, 97% of them weren't from Oklahoma. So what does that tell you? It tells you, frankly, what we were doing is what we should be doing. We were absolutely defending parents against this monster organization that's coming in to push their ideology. And again, they can mobilize their national membership very quickly.
Yes, we had a there was postcards, and they were written, and they were so-called handwritten. Then I learned that is actually there are printers that can make these postcards look like they're handwritten. There's a whole like system behind it, and they'd say friend, or Scarlett, hey, did you know about making aware of myself, of my own efforts to bring sanity, fighting for parental rights. Then you look at the stamps and the dates. New York, stamp from New York, from California, from Florida. We started posting them online, and then suddenly this effort stopped. And when it started up, they got wise to the fact that, oh wait, our postmarks are from all over the country, and you're writing like you live right here in Wisconsin when you don't. And that's some of the tactics that they do. They make it seem what is AstroTurf is actually organic when it's not. Like groups like Indivisible, they coordinate, they work together, they make it seem like this is real, but it's very far left radical groups, very well funded. What's really shocking to see is that they are infiltrating schools, particularly high schools. And I can give a personal example because in a high school, Shorewood High School, which is probably 10 to 15 minutes from my house, it's in our area, students walked out, anti-ICE protest. They were led during the school day, hundreds. They were led by elected Democrat members of our state assembly. They were holding horns, and they were telling the kids to march against the Nazis, like slogans like "We're not KKK, go away," all of that. Then they got to City Hall, where on the bullhorn, these elected Democrat members inferred that if you're not with us, you're against us, and we need to take down this evil empire. And you should telling these minor students, call your state representatives, get involved, come to Madison, do political activism. And if you see a federal agent, an ICE agent, what do? and he had them yell, "Fight back." And they're like, "Fight back, fight back." He's talking about, these are armed federal agents. He's telling kids when they see armed federal agents to fight back. To me, that's incitement, it's immoral, and it should be criminal.
Right, and you've seen this with other Marxist regimes throughout history. They use kids as weapons, as political pawns, to achieve their goals. I was just reading the other day the story about how coffee was introduced in Japan. This little side note, but it's funny that in Japan they weren't drinking coffee. It wasn't something that was prevalent. So a lot of the coffee companies came in and said, "What if we make coffee flavored candy for the kids, where they like the taste of it, and when they get older, then we'll have a customer base for our coffee." So it was, hey, let's get in with the kids. Let's find a way that's digestible for them to start liking this flavor, and then we can sell coffee later on when they're adults. What you've seen, again, when it comes to the transgenderism that's been pushed, the anti-Americanism that's pushed, they start off when they're in kindergarten, first, second, third grade. And to your point, when they get up in high school and in college, it is full-blown Marxist theory. It is full-blown, the most far-left radical ideas being pushed on them. But they have started with the kids. They have literally groomed them. They have literally indoctrinated them. So when they get to be adults, you get people where, they're biting the fingers off an ICE agent. You can't have conversations with folks that have been that indoctrinated for so long. And again, you see folks on our side, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, God bless him, for just saying, "I want to have the conversation. I am just trying to open you guys up to see that there's other ways to think, and let's just challenge each other." You see that they killed him over that. And you see the violence there that comes from, again, when you start indoctrinating kids at that early age, it is to get them to be Marxist foot soldiers in a war against America.
Yeah, and I'm glad early on you said that a lot of the information you get is from educators, because I was made aware of this situation in Shorewood by teachers. Mm-hmm. Teachers sent me the video. They sent me the links. They said, "Here's where you find it." I wouldn't have known. It was being live streamed by teachers unions. And so they're like, "Here's the link, go to this Instagram here, please expose this." They were like, "Please expose this. Like, this is wrong. They should not be doing this." So there was teachers that have been sending me the flyers and showing me where to look and telling me, "You got to get on Blue Sky. Here's where you have to go." So there are many teachers that do not agree with this. They don't want it. So I want to be sure we're talking about those activist few, but they make a lot of noise, and they bully and intimidate everyone else. And they've got a lot of power because they are affiliated usually with teachers unions. And, I think sometimes the instinct is, I don't want to lose my job. I just don't want to get involved. Sure. But then you see what you just posted. A California teacher tells students how to avoid ICE. And, you have to get involved.
And that's what we're doing here at the Teacher Freedom Alliance, and to be clear of what you're talking about there is a lot of good teachers out there. We've had hundreds of teachers join from Minnesota since last week that are saying, what in the world? They're shutting down school for ICE protests, or they're mobilizing again. No. We don't want our dues going to that. That's not what we signed up for. You told us this was a professional organization. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what my check should be going to. And we've got to continue in this fight to protect our kids, get parents more involved with our kids. We've got to find these good teachers, give them options like what we provide here at TFA. We've got to say, listen, we want good teachers in our classroom. What we don't want is a political machine, the teachers union, that's coming in, using teachers, frankly, threatening teachers, mobilizing them for political means. And again, we talk to members every day that go, I want to get out. I am so concerned. What happens to me, my career, my job when I leave? You won't believe the stuff that they do. And so we continue to provide them those protections and help them do that. But again, they have captured this institution as our K-12 schools, our higher ed institutions. We're fighting to get them back. Parents, you guys, Moms for Liberty, you've been on the front lines of this. You've seen it up close and personal. And again, you and I have had this conversation before. I think parents would be amazed at how many of our tips of bad things coming from the classroom was a good teacher next door, a good teacher down the hall who said, hey, I saw this go on and I've got to tell somebody, I've got to do this. This isn't right. And so you've got a lot of good people in the school system. We've got to find them. We've got to support them. We've got to empower them. And we've got to get back to partnering good teachers, parents, and kids to get education back on track. And again, the teachers union, that is their worst nightmare. They want parents out. They want good teachers scared. And they want to indoctrinate kids.
And they want good teachers out. I think if more teachers were involved with your organization, they would stay. They wouldn't leave at 16 years, 17, 18 years, 2 years away from their retirement, and they can't take it anymore and they leave. In Wisconsin, we're trying to pass a teacher bill of rights because the number one reason that teachers are leaving the profession, they don't feel safe in schools. They don't feel that the administration or the state superintendents have their back. They have no tools in their toolbox. It's they're actually getting physically harmed, and then there's emotional and mental anguish inflicted on them, and they can't do their job. And then even in a suburban school, let's say that's a little more safe, well, there's kind of this cookie cutter approach to education, and they're not allowed to think outside the box and use their well-honed skills, their instincts. They've been doing this, they know that every year, and this as a teacher, there's no one way. One year you'll have a certain group of kids, 30 kids, and the next year it'll be a different group, and you've got to adjust, adapt, improvise, overcome, so that maybe there's more girls this year, maybe there were more boys than they were. So you got to adjust your strategies. But when you've got this kind of cookie cutter, woke approach, and then here's the list of books that you have to use, even if you would like to teach something else, you can't. You gotta follow these guidelines, and who wants to? That's not why you go into teaching. That's not what you wanted to do. You want to inspire and make a change. And so we need organizations that protect good teachers and have their back.
I mean, it doesn't take you long as a parent to figure out that kids are unique and different, does it? I mean,
No.
I've got four. It doesn't take very long to go, you know what she needs isn't exactly what he needs. And they're different people, and they learn differently, and they think differently. And it's amazing. God's gift to all parents of the uniqueness of their children. They're all made in God's own image, but they're all unique. We understand that about our own kids. And that's where it's so important that, good teachers, they want to partner with parents. They understand that not only is a parent vital to that kid's life, there's nobody more vital. They also understand, I'm going to understand this kid better. I'm going to get a better connection with this kid when it comes to their learning, how they learn, how they process, by getting to know their parents. That's so important in that process. But to your point, you're exactly right. Unions could care less. They're a political machine. So for them, their ideology also blinds them so badly. How is a teacher supposed to teach in a classroom where there's maximum disruption, where kids are throwing staplers or threatening their own teachers? But for them and their Marxist ideology, well, they're victims. Well, this person's a victim. And they play that critical race theory game when actually it's the exact opposite. Expectations on kids, on their behavior is what's important, right? That's how you can make sure that they learn what's right, what's wrong, and make sure that they're doing that in a classroom where little Johnny that's trying to sit there and read isn't having another kid yell at him or threaten his teacher right in front of him. And so you see all this, this is the breakdown of the educational system. And this is what happens when you're given over to Marxism. It causes this mass disruption that what ends up happening is this ultimate power grab. And you hear this from teachers all the time. They have some woke left-wing administrator that's just top down, bottom down. You got to do it. Read from a script, teach every kid this way. If they don't do it, send them here, send them there. We're not machines. We're not robots. We're individuals. That's not how you teach. And who wants to teach in that environment? And then, by the way, what do the administrators do to take it one step further? They build government. That's why you have more administrators now than ever before, because superintendent wants to have 4 deputy superintendents, and they've got 4 deputies, and then they've got a dean of students, and before you know it, every state in the country now has more administrator bureaucrat types that have teachers.
Yes.
Going, yeah, why in the world would a good person want to be a teacher in this environment? It's why it's so important to get back to the basics, and we know what those are, and that's how you attract good teachers, and that's how you get kids to learn.
Yes, I was reading in some of a Reddit chat of teachers and some regarding the children of non-English speaking children. So children that are coming into kindergarten. One teacher said that she was potty training half of the class. This is kindergarten. They weren't even potty trained and they didn't speak English. I mean, and just frustrated. Like she couldn't teach the class because there was accidents and having to potty train and not be able to communicate in a kindergarten class. I don't understand, how is a teacher supposed to do their job in this environment? And that's where, like, you can have all the compassion you want, but you can't have the limited resource we have taken up by families that aren't supposed to be here. They're not here legally, and the children aren't, they don't speak English. But then, of course, you have a union coming in saying, how dare you point that out? How dare you comply if you're told by the federal government, do you have children that you suspect have a non-citizen status? And I don't think that ICE is coming into schools or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is that there's just all of these issues, and teachers are sort of left kind of having to deal with these problems that they shouldn't have to be dealing with if the federal government was doing their job, or the state government for that matter.
I'm going to tell you one of the scariest points with illegal immigration that scares me is the fentanyl crisis. I mean, these kids with the fentanyl, we have seen it's almost exclusively coming across the border. And when you see this, fentanyl is, and I know you know this, I mean, it's so dangerous because unlike other drugs where, of course, it's bad, you never want kids to do drugs, you never want them to get addicted, they may take fentanyl one time and drop dead. I mean, you see this coming across the country. And again, it is almost exclusively coming across the border. We have allowed that to come into our schools. We've allowed it to come into our communities where kids will make mistakes. They make one mistake there, they're dead. They don't go home to mom and dad. They don't get a chance at rehab or to fix things there. It is dangerous. There have been incredibly dangerous criminals that have come across that border. It's very common sense to shut the border down, to get the illegal criminals back across the border. And yet the teachers unions, where have they been on the fentanyl crisis? Where have they been on the danger that this has brought into our schools and our society? Dead silent, because their Marxist worldview is such that they absolutely want open borders. They want the chaos. They want the American government to be torn down.
Yeah. And it's really hard for schools to function when you've got a majority of kids that don't speak English. And then you've got a teacher that is an English speaker in America. It's just a lot. I just recently, this was just last week, I went out to dinner with a group of our Moms for Liberty members, and they brought along three current teachers. This group is almost exclusively former teachers. It's my biggest, if I were to say our Moms for Liberty chapter in my area, the number one profession, it's education. They are all current and former teachers, or they're paraprofessionals. They volunteer teach. So I mean, it's anecdotal, but it's very interesting. So the teachers started to talk about situations that they're dealing with. One had said, she's a special ed teacher, and said that she's been doing it for over 20 years. And she said, you know what, Scarlett, I'm ready to lose my job, and I'm going to defy the administrators, and I'm going to identify these kids in kindergarten that I think need an IEP, they're special needs, but I've been told to not tell their parents and to not test them or refer them. And if I lose my job, and I was like, hold up, wait a second. You don't need to, you that is illegal. Like, they can't fire you for doing your job. Right. Here's an organization. And I showed them your website, and she was so excited. She's like, really? Like, you need to talk to them, and you're having a conference. I'm like, let's all go. And they were all so excited at the thought that, like, there's options. Like, I could get maybe I wouldn't get fired if I actually, like, stood up for my students and did what is ethical and actually what is statutorily required. And so that just goes to show you that these were conservative teachers that had not heard of your organization and were not aware that they could have help if they needed it.
And that's where I appreciate so much you getting the word out about the Teacher Freedom Alliance and the work we're doing, because again, we see this all over the country where they are so, and by the way, they're blocking us in Washington State from even reaching out to teachers. If we email teachers, we're now under threats of lawsuits, just telling them, you don't have to join the union, right? There's other organizations. We have blue states that are saying you can't email the teachers. Only the teachers union can email the teachers. No other organizations.
And they sure do.
Yeah, that's literally a lawsuit that's going on right now. And so what we continue to see is they don't want them to know that there's other options. They don't want them to know. And here's the other thing. The teachers unions do a great job of this. They bully, intimidate, threaten good teachers. And so good teachers like the one you just described sit there and go, I guess I'm alone. I guess I'm just such an outlier here. I don't, maybe I'm the only one who sees it this way. You're not. Most parents see it the way that you do. And as a matter of fact, there's a lot of teachers that see it the way you do. And this is how we get education back on track, because everything that you just said from that teacher, that's common sense. You tell most people publicly that, they're going to go, well, I want that person teaching my kids. That's the kind of mentality that I want. And, you see this, and to take it to a little other lane, this is one of the things I saw the teachers union defending the federal Department of Education. I'm going, so hold on a second. What good teacher wants a bureaucrat in Washington, D.C.? I mean, much less a bureaucrat in your own building. But who would want a bureaucrat from Washington, D.C. telling a special needs teacher like the one you just described, this is how you teach?
Yep.
Little Johnny in your classroom in Texas or in Florida? That is the most absurd thought in the world. Like I said, I think it's absurd to have an administrator doing that in your local school district building, much less a D.C. bureaucrat in the Department of Education. Eliminating that agency is such common sense. I applaud President Trump for his efforts there. But again, that's one of those things where they have so lied to their members. If you just talk to a teacher and you can get past the union talking points, you start going into, you really think that a bureaucrat sitting at a desk in DC should tell you how to teach your class today? Okay, well, that's what we're talking about here, guys. That is what the union's defending. That's what they're protecting, because of the power that gives them to dictate their ideology to the kids.
You know how you could talk. I have had teachers come up to me almost read like you don't support teachers, and they're progressive, all that, and I'll say, what do you think about how administrators, like the increase in hiring of administrators, and that they aren't hiring more teachers, they're not hiring more paraprofessionals, math specialists, reading specialists. Do you think that funds should be going towards hiring more administrators? And she's like, no, absolutely not. Actually, I'm shocked. And just get them talking about how much they don't like the bureaucrats and how frustrated they are by, in our CISA, now there's governing organizations that write grants, and how frustrated they are with their state representatives, and how the funding formula doesn't make sense, and how they don't get raises, that they don't even get like an inflationary raise in raises, but there's administrators making six figures, and the local superintendent is making $260,000, and they're always frustrated with their superintendent. I have gone to school board meetings where a teacher who was almost like my arch enemy, we came together because she was like, I disagree with so much of what Scarlett said, but what she said about the administrators is 100% right. We need to be able to teach. There's too many administrators. We're not allowed to do our job. So I have, so there are things that we agree on. If we, like you said, get beyond those union talking points, and they can see that you're a mom and a parent who cares, and you don't hate teachers. You love and care for teachers. They are so important. They were important in my life. They're important to my children. But man, when you see what's going on with some of these radical educators, call them out. Say, this isn't who we are. And say that, maybe we agree on some things, but we don't want our classrooms and our schools to be, the boot camp for the next generation of anti-ICE protesters, especially considering how dangerous that is. That's not where we should be putting young kids.
No, that's a great point. And strategically, the unions, the school boards, the administrators made a strategic decision a few decades ago, which was, instead of, the school boards fighting with administrators, fighting with the union, what if we all just came together, negotiated this huge budget take our cut, get the teachers to believe that when they don't get as much as they feel like they should, that it's not our fault, it's Republicans' fault, it's conservatives' fault, it's parents' fault, taxpayers' fault. And so then we get to let's just all work together. We'll get our cut. We will use our weaponization of emails, of taxpayer funds and resources in the school system to push these lies, keep the teachers believing that it's conservatives, it's parents that are actually not getting them, the salary that for the performance that they're doing. And then, hey, we'll live high on the hog over here. And they've been very effective at that. And so it's when you start breaking that down, in Oklahoma, I froze administrative pay and they just lost their ever-loving minds. And you have teachers going, well, yeah, you gave yourself a record raise for like the last 8 years in a row. That's not a crazy concept. So we always try to show them, guys, hey, look, if you're doing a great job as a teacher, I want you to make a lot more money. I'm perfectly fine with that. But what we're not going to keep doing is keep funneling money into an apparatus that goes to political causes like the teachers union does, goes to administrators. And I'm going, why do you need 40 something administrators in a school of a few hundred? Like, this doesn't make sense, right? Yes. Conceptually, a school is about educating kids. So why in the world do you have more non-teachers than teachers? And so you start asking these questions. And that's when, like you said, you can get to some of these teachers and go, they start looking at it going, well, that makes a lot of sense. But again, they have done an effective job of lying to the public, to teachers, to believe it's, and when you talk to conservatives, of course we want good teachers in there with our kids. Of course we want a good teacher that knows their material. Of course we want them to feel supported and everything else. But that's what the system has created, is that school board members, administrators, and the teachers unions are actually working against the teachers themselves.
Yeah, there are instances in my school district where they have an in-house marketing department, but when they're trying to sell the referendum, they hired a firm and spent millions of dollars. Like, well, why do you have in-house marketing and you have assistants and all this, and then you still hire a firm that's well known for getting these operational budgets across, building budgets, and it's a big issue that's happening in my state, and I think all over the country. Referendum and trying to get money, whether for more buildings and then eventually operational. It's just more money, more buildings, even though there are more parents homeschooling, there's declining in population, and where there's school choice, these public school buildings are kind of empty. Then they're not allowed to sell them to, they deny in the lease, they put in the contracts that they can't sell them to any other schools to use them. There's just so many things going on top of sort of the political stuff, that it can feel overwhelming. But if we just keep chipping away at it and doing the best that we can, I know that we can have success, but we really do need to win over more teachers. We really do.
And they're always going to say more money, more money. And I'm here to tell you, the money is not the issue. It's how the money is being spent. Yeah. If you prioritized kids and you prioritize good teaching and good academics, there's plenty of money there to make sure that the teachers are paid for the job that they're doing, that the kids have the resources. But when we continue to allow the teachers unions and the administrators to control the system and get their cut, they will always find an excuse where they need more money, because again, they are going to continue to pad their pockets. They're going to continue to grow bureaucracy. And this is where the efforts that you guys have getting involved in school board races, the efforts you have to inform parents and teachers around the country, it's so important in the work being done, because the reality is most people see it the way we do. Most parents, grandparents, taxpayers want kids to be educated in a common sense, back to the basics way. But it is a matter of dealing with the huge monstrosity of the teachers union.
Yes. So in closing, talk more about you have a big conference in July, right? And how can educators, teachers learn more? Let's talk about that conference, because I think it's great. I wasn't able to go last year, but I'm going to go this year. So I already have it on my calendar. And I think it's a great networking opportunity plus learning opportunity. And what are the major priorities you have for this spring?
Yeah, no, the Teacher Freedom Summit, July 15th through 17th. We would love for teachers, parents, taxpayers, grandparents, everybody, come show up. Teachers, especially for you, what we've got is we're going to have a lot of training around how to get discipline back in the classroom. Isn't that is probably the top topic we are requested. Can you help us find good trainings on how we get discipline back in the classroom? Because the schools aren't doing it anymore. So we're going to have multiple sessions on that. We're going to have sessions about how you work closely with parents and making sure that the kids are getting what they need in the classroom. We're going to have academic resources available. We're going to have trainings for parents on how do you build that relationship with the teachers? How do you get involved? How do you see the curriculum? How do you find kind of these problem issues inside curriculum? It's going to be a great conference. And then we're going to have specifics of how to teach different concepts, whether you're a math teacher, English teacher, reading teacher, kindergarten teacher. So we're going to have all of that as well. But it's going to be great. We listen to the teachers. What do they need to be the best teachers they can be? We include that. What do parents want to know? That'll be included. And then again, for taxpayers, school board members, we're going to talk about school finances. Where does the money go? How do you effectively budget for kids, putting their academics first? How do you make sure that that's what a school is doing? How do you make decisions around that? So it will be all of the above. We will have all the topics covered. We'll have some great speakers that we'll be announcing soon. But again, we'd love to have you guys in Dallas with us. And if you'll go to teacherfreedom.com, we have information there. Please sign up. It'll be a great conference. And again, we're looking forward to propelling all the teachers across the country and getting our schools back on track.
And that's if you're a small private school, a charter school, there's no limit. If you are a teacher, if you are an educator, even, would you say even a homeschooler?
Homeschool, private school, charter school, big public school, small rural public school. We're talking about the things that are tried, true in education. We know that are successful, those concepts that we've got to get back to. And then again, parents, grandparents, taxpayers, school board members alike, this is a back to the basics conference of how do you do education in a way that benefits all kids. And we're really excited to host it.
Oh, that's great. Well, I will be there, and I hope a lot more will be there, because there's always, I always learn something. There's always, and then that networking and learning about just the different inventive ways that parents, communities, teachers, they're coming up with ways to educate and breaking the mold. And kind of, we don't have to, just because it's the way things been done, especially when the NAEP scores show they're not doing it very well. I think it's time to reimagine education and do it in a way that fits the technology we have now and the real life situation of families right now. So thank you for all you do. Thank you for your work. And I'll keep referring more teachers to you, because it's really great that they have an organization that represents them and has their back.
Well, I sure appreciate that very much. And I appreciate all the work you're doing. You're a rock star. Thank you for fighting for the parents and fighting for the kids. So thank you for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, thank you. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.